Hi, and welcome to Flip Flops in the Garden. Hope you enjoy this video. This is just a broad view of our little homestead here in Henderson, Nevada, and what we do here. Hope you enjoy the video. This is my front yard, and I'll take you in a little closer and show you what I have going on. Now keep in mind, this is all just a work in progress. And here we are coming up on my first raised bed that my husband built me. And I have cucumbers and a zucchini and a squash growing in this bed, and a little bit of romaine that has hung on through the summer. And as you'll notice, there is a sunshade that will be put on usually around 11:30, 12 o'clock. I string that over to this little hook, and it provides afternoon shade because these plants do not like the direct sun in the afternoons. And it also helps shade this little raised bed that's got some collard greens. I did have Swiss chard, but something ate it. I'm thinking it was a rat. And I also have a little bit of lettuce, and I have 2 bush beans growing in this bed. And up here I have a beauty gala apple tree that I have planted in a container, and as you can see, it's pretty tall and it's not going to stay there. I just was leaving it there until it gets kind of situated into the bigger pot. It was a 5-gallon that I bought at a local nursery here, and as you can see, we have a palm there beside it that will be coming out. It is pushing too far against the wall that was here when we moved here. In behind this little raised bed of where I have the 2 little bush beans, I also have planted 2 bush beans in some pots. They get some shade there in the afternoon so it doesn't beat them down. And here are the little bush beans in comparison. And I also planted whole Yukon Gold potatoes in containers. This container I bought at I believe it was Home Depot, and the red one over there that is a upcycle. That is one of our old recycling bins that our waste disposal company no longer uses. We have a huge trash can, and in that one, which is also a recycling, I have a couple of cabbages, I have a couple of carrots growing in there. It is actually too late in the season for those, but I'm just kind of babying them along, see what happens. This is all one big experiment. You can see my garden hose that I leave laid out all the time. Here is a recent purchase. This is a dwarf pomegranate that I planted, and I planted that yesterday. I bought this last Saturday, but just got it planted. Wasn't sure what pot I wanted to use. Hopefully it will come on and I will get some fruit this year. I'm not sure. I think this plant is actually a year old. I won't let it fruit too much, maybe just a few. Here are a few of my tomato plants that I planted from seed. There are 2 in this big pot, and I do not remember what variety they are. I do know that they are an heirloom. They're really pretty tomatoes. And in the green pot I have one. This will be the last year for that little pot. It's cracked on one side. So there are my tomatoes. I do have some more in the backyard that I'll be showing you. In this first pot here, this is a kumquat that I bought yesterday in a 5-gallon pot, and I will be doing some updates on it. This is my first kumquat. In the humongous pot behind it, that is a guava. That is a pineapple guava, and they called it a patio guava. Seems to be a nice healthy plant. I planted that one into this big pot, I think last weekend, and it is losing some of its older leaves, but the new ones are staying on, and it does actually have some new growth coming on, which I am very pleased. The sun on the front side of our house, this is where the sun comes in the mornings, and then by afternoon it does get some shade. And over on this side, I just have some aloe vera plants that I planted and some little cactus succulents. And some of these came from my sister down in Florida that she sent to me in the mail, and I'm doing my best to keep them alive. This one I did buy here in Las Vegas. It seems to be doing okay. It's kind of getting more sun than it's used to. Since I put the pineapple guava over in the corner, it gets a little more sun than what it's used to. And also in my front yard, this is kind of a view of my raised beds. I'm not sure what this plant is called, but this was in our backyard, and I will show you where we dug that up from. It is alive, and it is putting off some new flowers. We also transplanted those two. We also gave some to our neighbors. These were humongous plants that we dug up and didn't really care if they lived or died. They're kind of a pain. They're really sharp and pointy. When you walk by them, it'll scratch your legs. And all of the flowers that come off of those were falling into our pool. And it was just really kind of a pain. The hummingbirds and the bees do like them, so we thought we would go ahead and plant them out here in the front. Take note of the rock and all of that. Eventually, we hope, and the weeds will be coming out of there. Would like to plant some more trees in here, and this is the back side of the front yard. This is some grass that was also growing in the back that we dug up and we transplanted. I chopped it down short, fertilized it a little bit, keep it watered, and it is coming back. We're hopeful. And this is coming up through our side yard here next to our pool equipment and the spa heater. This is our back patio. It is not naturally covered, but we did buy, I don't know what you call these, an awning that we put up on poles. And then we also, to hold the poles, we did some buckets and filled it with some rocks and some seashells that I got while I was in Florida visiting my sister. So all four corners. And here is our barbecue that we use quite often. And over in that corner is part of a chicken coop that I first had. And I think I've discovered that I'm going to use that, perhaps put a raised bed under that once we get this leveled off. Those plants that I was telling you that we transplanted to the front, that's what they look like. These are quite big, and all that grass has got to go. But all the rock is going to go also. And there's our little fire pit, and over beside that with the shovel, that is my little homemade compost bin. Not really having much luck with that. We also have a sunshade that we strung that will be getting moved over, because as the sun has moved, it doesn't really quite cover the afternoon sun coming in. These are some plants that I have started. I have ordered some Barbados cherries, seedlings. I have 4 of those. Those are in the black pots and in that pink pot. In the little white pots, those are upcycled pots, by the way. Those are avocado seeds that I threw in the dirt, and they've actually rooted, and I do have a couple that are trying to grow. In the white container, clear container behind with the Ziploc baggies, that is some citrus from my neighbor's tree that I am trying to, I took the cuttings and I'm trying to get to root. My first time doing this. Here up close to me in this white bucket, this is a icing bucket from the deli at my local grocery store, and that's got an eggplant. The orange Home Depot also has an eggplant. As you can see, I also have a green stalk planter. And in the tall white bucket, that is some apricot cuttings from a friend of mine whose tree is 30+ years old, and one of the branches broke from the weight of all the apricots. So I snatched the cuttings, and in the little green cups here I have some cuttings with the plastic Ziploc bags over them. I'm not sure if I'm going to do some more, because in all actuality I tried 21 cuttings. And over in behind me I have some in these big storage containers, and they're also in the cups. I also have down in here in those Ziploc bags, that's some more of the citrus cuttings. I have another avocado seed. I also have a mango from a seed that I rooted in a napkin in a Ziploc bag, and it doesn't seem to be doing so well, but time will tell. And over here I do have, in that strawberry buttercream bucket from my deli again, I have a raspberry that I ordered from Stark Brothers, and next to it is a blueberry that I also ordered from Stark, and I planted those in these buckets on Saturday. In these 2 little white buckets I have 2 big gem pepper plants. As you can see, I hope, I do have a pepper growing in there. I've pulled one already. And then I also have 3 tomato plants that I bought. 2 are called the Brandywine Yellow, and one is an early girl. And I do have tomatoes on the early girl. Hope that you can see those. And there are some bigger ones on here. The yellow brandywines have not produced, so I'm hoping that maybe this fall they'll go ahead, because I think it's too hot already for them to actually set fruit. And over in this direction, I have a Olympian fig that I bought as a little bitty plant at Home Depot, and that was upcycled into that pot. And next to it I have a mandarin dwarf plant tree. It seems to be doing pretty well. I try to get it out here into the sun in the mornings, and it is putting off some new growth. I think I do have one in there that is a sucker that I'm going to have to trim. And as we're scanning, and this is my pool, and it is so filthy. We had a windstorm yesterday, and I'm going to have to get out here and clean that. And here is my grape arbor that my husband and I built, and the transplants from out front, this is the area that they came from. That was totally full of those plants. So that was a lot of hard work. They have roots that go really deep. On your left, or on my left, is a Thompson seedless grapevine. It's been kind of sickly, and so I've been kind of babying it. I put a sunshade over it so that it gets a little more shade in the afternoons, a little earlier, but it is actually putting off some new growth finally. And on this side, which I hope you can see, it's going crazy. That is a Concord grape. It has absolutely taken off, and it won't be producing this year, so, but it is growing, and I'm really proud of that one. And then over in this direction, I started off with a greenhouse that my husband purchased for me. Started off with just some lettuces and things in there. Seemed to be working just fine. Then it got too hot, so we purchased a shade cloth, and it was entirely way too long. So we built a little lean-to, and this area gets morning sun. My husband also used some pallets to just kind of prop it up a little bit and give it a little bit more stability. And under there I have some strawberries in the top part of my green stalk planter, and I moved them over there when I first transplanted them to kind of give them a little more shade and a little bit of light. Now I need to move them back. And behind, in that blue Maxwell House coffee can, I have a sucker from the early girl, so I'm hoping to overwinter that. In the black container, I have some lettuce that is actually doing pretty decent. I started my eggplants in there and dug those out and transplanted them into the other containers. I also have a cabbage in that tall, round container. Something ate the cabbage in that square one, and the next one is also a cabbage. I think I'm going to end up pulling those. And in my greenhouse, I'm using it kind of as a storage. In these containers, I also have avocados seeds, and we'll see if those actually produce anything. I will eventually be getting a couple of avocado trees, but this is just kind of an experiment to see what happens. And looking over from the greenhouse, and over here is my girls. I have 4 chickens, and in the storm yesterday, the wind blew down their little sunshade. I'll have to fix that today because the afternoon sun really beats in on them. And I also have a fan on them. And that's my girls. I get 2 to 3 eggs a day. These girls are roughly 3 years old. I don't have the heart to dispatch them. They've become pets, which I shouldn't have done, but I did. And they'll just live their life here. And they're pretty good girls. They can be noisy, but my neighbors haven't complained. I give them eggs. So, anyways, thank you for joining me here at Flip Flops in the Garden, and I'll see you soon.